What another great conversation with, ironically, another realtor. We've been talking to realtors this month, but the work she's doing, the purpose work, the way she's showing up for others and mentoring and just trying to make a difference in the world. I love that. That's right where we are in our heart.
Yeah. I think we were a little bit surprised. She's an Aussie from down
Yeah.
under.
We keep talking to people from Australia, don't we?
Yeah, she
Love
got
it.
up bright and early, but it's interesting to see some of the changes and some of the similarities between what's going on with women in the United States right now
Yeah.
and what's going on down under with women. So everybody have a listen. This one was fun.
Yeah.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DeMano. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. We're always happy when you join us for these conversations, for these opportunities to connect and learn and grow together. And today we have Brigitte Stills coming to us all the way from Australia. So we're very excited to have her here. She's a coach, consultant, and mentor working primarily with real estate agents. She's been a licensed agent for over 40 years and owned and operated her own business for 27 years. She started in the industry in 1975 and worked for a company that only employed men. So she's a pioneer. She was the first female in sales within the company, which had 11 branches and some 140 men. So she was thoroughly outnumbered, but she charged right on through. And now she's here to tell us a little bit about all of that. So thank you and welcome, Brigitte.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Absolutely.
Wow. So we were just talking about our good friend Desiree, and Desiree she's on a mission. We have like 10 people that she has referred as, all amazing women from apparently all over the world, all shapes and sizes and colors and ages. And we're just super excited that you're here. You know, we had a brief conversation with you just about some of the work you're doing and what you're passionate about. And it feels appropriate that we're all passionate about helping women and moms and understanding what's going on in the world right now, not just in America, but in Australia, that women are having to put the gloves on, if you will. It's time to fight again, right? So, Brigitte, so tell us a little bit about your story, about how you got into real estate, about being a pioneer.
Wow, that's 1975. That's a long time ago. I was actually at university. I was studying psychology, and at that particular time, I needed to go and earn some money so to pay for my education. My father at that time had decided that he wasn't real happy with psychology studies, and he sort of indicated that funds were coming to an end, and subsequently, I had to go and find myself a part-time job. And I started to look around for a part-time job, and I ended up working for an organization they were developers, and they were building apartment buildings all over Sydney. And I was fortunate enough to get a job there, and I was actually in their property management department, and that was in their rental section. And what my job entailed was taking people to apartment buildings and leasing these apartments out. I really enjoyed that. And I was doing that 3 days a week. And I did so well at it. I'd leased 45 apartments in 1 month, where they approached me. And said, "Would you like to become permanent?" And I loved the job so much. I met so many people, and the socializing and, mixing with people, all walks of life out there, people that were looking for new homes or having to move for whatever reason. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So yes, I decided to defer my studies, became a full-time employee, got into their property management section, and some 9 months down the track, they asked me would I join their sales department. And that was selling. They were straddling off some of their department buildings, and they needed someone to sell them. And they asked would I be interested in doing that. But it entailed a lot of weekend work. Well, it was every weekend, so you
Yeah.
got to have Friday off, and you know Friday was Friday meeting, so you didn't have any time off. So I did that, and I did that successfully. And I thought, well, there's got to be more out there for me, you know, not just selling apartments. I want to sell houses. I want to sell land. I want to sell commercial properties. I want to do more because I was so good at it. My confidence was at an all high.
Nice.
And I started to ring around you know, there was advertising in papers in our Sydney Morning Herald and various other media resources. And I started to phone around agencies, and what I got back is we're not employing women. We don't employ women in sales.
Mm,
And you know,
Oh.
I was a bit despondent at that, and I thought, well, I
sure.
won't give up. I'll keep trying. So I got in touch with this company, which I'd always admired. They were a big brand, and you know, they had many offices and 140 people working in their offices in the various branches all over Sydney. And they were the first to do auctions, in-house auctions and on-site auctions. And I spoke to the manager there at the office, and he said, I'm happy to meet with you, but don't waste my time. If you've got anything to show me, bring it along. If you can't support, if you can't support what you're telling me, don't worry about coming. And I thought, well, that's okay. So off I went, and I had a meeting with him, and he said, look, you know, you've got the job as far as I'm concerned, but you've got to meet with our general manager. Oh, he was tough. He was hard. He was tough. He said to me, what do you want to get into sales for? You know, selling real estate is for men. It's not for women. You know,
Oh my God.
and he said, why don't you apply for a secretarial role or a receptionist? I said, no, I've been doing this for 9 months. I love it. I want to do it. And he said, let me think about it. So I had two more interviews. Look, at the end, I got the job, and I ended up working in this office in one of the suburbs. And, you know, I was surrounded by 12 men. The manager was relatively good, but he said to me originally, he said, look, this is hard. You're a woman, you wear a dress, okay? No trousers, a dress, you wear heels, and you wear lipstick. You know, and I thought, okay, I'm a woman.
Wow.
And that's sort of that's how it started. And from there on, you know, it was really, really hard because I was amongst all these men, and I was seen like a young girl, you know, kid that what does she want to do this for? Nobody would
Right.
share any information. You'd have sales meetings, and you wouldn't be up the front, you'd be at the back. And when it was your time to speak, somebody else would pop up and speak. So you know, the only time you were able to have conversation is if you had the manager on a one-to-one basis, and you know you spoke up. But other than that, it just didn't happen. But look, it was tough. It was hard. I got through it. I ended up having a mentor, which was actually a man. Um, and he showed me my path. And I tell you, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today, because I got to the stage where I thought, I can't do this. You know, I'm getting nowhere. Because they said to me, we want you to go and letterbox drop. So I would walk around the streets of this suburb in high heel shoes, in a dress, and putting leaflets in letterboxes. That was my job when I started.
Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt you, but you said you had a mental. Is that what you
Mentor,
said?
mentor, yeah.
Oh,
Mentor.
mentor. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I thought that was a word from Australia that I didn't really know what it was. Okay. So your mentor, who was a man, helped you kind of keep going through this sort of,
But
you can't even really call it microaggressions. It's major aggressions that you were experiencing on a daily basis, it sounds like.
Well, when I was dropping leaflets into the Church of England Children's Home, this was like a big orphanage, and it was in this particular suburb. And I used to stand out the front and watch the kids play, and I used to love it. You know, the kids were playing, running around, and everything, and you visualize these poor kids. They're in orphanages. Why are they there? You know, don't they have parents? Why? You know, what's put them there? And he came along to me one day. This man, he was the accountant and one of the directors of this Church of England Children's Home. He says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm dropping leaflets. And he said, you don't look to me like, you're a postman. I said, I'm not. My company has asked me to do this. So we got into this conversation and he said, come in and have a cup of tea or a coffee. So I went in there and I sat in there and I just blurred out my story. I just told him
Yes.
everything. I hadn't had anyone to talk to for so long.
Yeah.
And he said, well, let's see if I can help you. And he became my mentor. He was the
Wow.
guy that said, it's all about you. It's you building your profile. It's you being upfront. He said, it's you standing out. He said, he says, the company's just a company that's paying you and employing you. But he said, the credence is you. And he said, you've got to start standing up and shining and speaking up. And that's how it all started for me.
How old were you at this point?
I was 22.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
That's a lot I mean, all those men, all that testosterone and
Yeah.
ego just trying to push you down, and you just kept showing up.
Men in those days were, I don't know, look, I don't think they've changed that much, but they were harder on those.
Yes. Yeah,
The
they could get away with it. It was, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
ego was so big, they could
yeah,
say things to you and never have to retract what they had said. There was
no,
no apologies. There was
no
no,
accountability.
no, none at all. And if
Yeah.
you did anything wrong, everybody knew about it. If they did anything wrong, nobody knew about it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's what it was. And this man from the Church of England Children's Home, he ended up coming into my office some months down the track, and he said to my boss, he said, we are selling the Church of England Children's Home. And he said, I want Bridget to be the salesperson. I want her to be the listing agent. And my boss said, no, she can't. She's not ready for that sort of thing yet. He says, well, if you don't give her the job, he said, I will take it to another agency.
Wow.
That
Good for him. That's
that
an
sale,
ally.
yeah,
Wow.
that
Good for
sale
him.
became the biggest sale in the area. We got more money for that than anything else.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, that's when I started to stand up and shine,
Yeah.
and people started to realize that women can actually sell. It's not a man's job.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a similar story, actually. I was a female salesperson also. I was in the medical industry. And so the same was true for you. Now, I don't know how many years we are apart, but we talk about women and the generations of women and what we're standing on the backs of those generations before us, right? And so I imagine it might have been slightly better for me, but not really that much. I was in a man's world, same thing, like always the last for this. I was never offered any sort of management position. Meanwhile, I was number one or number two in sales for years. But that's just the way it was. And like you said, they could say to you whatever, they could treat you whatever, they could, it was just the way of the world. Now,
Yeah.
I imagine a saleswoman right now in the year 2025 is still having some issues. We're not caught up yet. So you think of
Yeah.
how many generations of women, and we've come so far, but we have so far to go still,
Yeah.
right?
We have a long way to go. I mean, I don't know. I've been to America a number of times. My favorite destination's always been New York, where I did some sales training and everything like that over the last 10, 15 years. But
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, there is still a difference, but there is a huge difference here in Australia. Women still have the opportunity to stand up and speak up and raise their voices. But I mean, there are companies still out there. They're very dogmatic. Their
Oh, yeah.
approach to women isn't very courteous, isn't very look, I don't, not that I want them to be personal towards women, but I think men should really sit down and have a good chat or a good conversation with women and find out what it is that they want and what makes them good at their job. Because
Hmm.
yourself, if you reach out and you find out how people tick or how they work, or you build a
Yeah.
relationship with somebody
Yeah.
and you collaborate, it goes a lot further than not knowing someone
Absolutely.
that you're working with.
And
Yeah.
that's that difference from kind of that patriarchal type of operation versus a more matriarchal. So the patriarchal is much more, what can I get? How can I get, over on this person? How can I have power over them? And a matriarchal system is more, how can we work together so that we all win? How can we show up together and lift each other? And my mother sold real estate for almost 40 years in Southern California. I was sort of raised with that. I just gave up my we gave up my license. I still have my license. I stopped selling real estate just basically at the start of the year. But in certain situations, in certain transactions, there's this very symbiotic, let's find something that works for both sides. We want everyone to be happy at the end of the deal. And then there's the others where you feel that like it's a pie and I need to get as many slices as I can. And it's just not, nobody ends up happy. Someone feels like they got screwed and someone feels like, oh, maybe I could have gotten more, versus this, like, let's do this in a way that's lifting everyone. And, my home is now someone else's and I want them to enjoy it, or I'm taking this on, and it's just a different way of looking at things.
Yes, look, I always say to people, you've got to build relationships. You can't work with anyone. You can't get close to anyone unless you have a relationship. And what I do with my mentor in my coaching is, the first thing I say is, you got to listen. You got to listen to what the client wants.
Yes.
If you don't listen to what the client wants, you can't make that sale, or you can't make that deal. Or if you do, they're not going to like you. And I'm all about building relationships for lifetime, not just for today or for tomorrow or while you're doing the transaction, but it's something that can continue on. These people can lead you to your next client. They can give you 15 more clients, And the point of the matter is, it's how you approach it, how you listen, how you speak to people. What's your synergy with people, and how do you adopt a system that's going to make that person you're speaking to feel comfortable and want you to do the deal for them.
Yes.
So Marci and I, we talked about this a little bit, but we come from a spiritual bent, if you will, for a lot of the way we live our lives, in fact. And so whether it's business or raising children or whatever it is we're doing, but we have had our own mentors who have said, and who have passed, who have said the feminine energy needs to take over the world because the alternative is we're not doing so well. The world as a whole. This is not just the crazies going on in America. Brigitte mentioned that women are seeing some depression in some areas of Australia too. And I think Marci and I's opinion is that it is men are up for a fight about this. They can feel the power of the women, right? And it's uncomfortable for them, right?
Hey, we just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about something very exciting that Debbie and I and our team have been working on for literally years. And that is our Cour Tools app, which is now available at the Google Play Store and at the Apple Store. And you can sign up for it now and you will get access to all the tools we've been talking about on the podcast.
And if you're an early adopter of Cour Tools, you can get a VIP price for $49 for a lifetime. That's
lifetime.
Right.
Buy it once and we'll keep updating it too.
Yes. So we're super excited about this. Go to Apple Store, go to Google Play, and purchase it now.
Cour Tools, COUR, capital TOOLS.
Go get it.
I think men work a lot on their egos, don't they? They work with their egos. That's their driving force, and that what keeps them going. And if you put a dent in their ego, they can't seem to function as well as women can. Where women have knockbacks all the time, we don't get the yes, you're doing well, all that stuff. But we pick ourselves up and go forward. We just keep on going. And I think that's in our, our nature. And that's being part of a woman, to be strong, to lead, to help, to look after your family, your friends. And if you're in business, look at the number of women that are in business that are right up the top there, work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just keep on going.
Yeah.
They work longer hours than men do. They work harder than men. They have to work twice as hard as men to succeed in the business that they're in.
That's right. In heels backwards, like they say about Ginger Rogers, and skirts and lipstick, all these nonsense things. One thing that I think is I hope that we're waking up to is that matriarchy or feminine energy versus this more patriarchal energy. It's not now it's women's turn to do it back to men. That's not it at all. Matriarchal energy isn't like that. So when women step in and when men embrace their, I want to say their feminine side, but that will just cause a lot of men's heads to explode. But you do have it. We all have both of these energies. But if we can, when we become more collaborative and more understanding and more, like you say, listening to, just like in any deal, if you listen to the other side, you find out what's important to them. And it's not necessarily the same as what's important to you. And I used to always sort of mention that to my clients, was like, let's see what matters to them, because it may be that the thing that's most important to them, you're very happy to give. And the thing that's most important to you, they're happy to give. It's not always about money. It can be about timing. It can be about these other things. And what it really comes out to is letting people live their fullest life. What lifts them. And so that is when we come to this more giving, taking, collaborative, kind way of being, we're all going to be lifted by it. We're all going to feel better, men included. Men are going to be free to have some feelings, to have some emotions, to talk about why is it that when someone says something that somehow chinks on their ego, it freaks them out. Would you like to look at that and maybe understand why you're reacting that way and maybe feel better? Because we see they're not comfortable when they're freaking out like that. So who wants that? Nobody wants that.
No, look, nobody wants that. And we all have emotions and we all have feelings and we all have to reach out to each other. It doesn't matter, how far we go in regards to helping people, whether it's a man or a woman. I mean, I mentor men as well, and I've helped people through, I had one fellow through COVID where he was standing on a balcony on the 5th floor and wouldn't get off the balcony. He was living in a 1-bedroom apartment and we were all in lockdown. So you can imagine living in one room plus a balcony. And his mother phoned me and she said, oh, you're my last resort. We can't reach a doctor. We can't reach a nurse. We can't reach anybody. Can you help him? And I was talking to this guy for a couple of hours and I got him off the balcony at least. But, reaching him and what was important to him was totally different what's important to us.
Yes.
Wanted fresh air, freedom, wanted space, wanted to get out, wanted to sit on the beach. He wanted to just get out. He thought the only way he was going to do that was jump off the balcony. And he said he didn't care what happened to him after that. He just couldn't have that confined space any longer. He said, I'm not sick. I haven't got COVID. I haven't got anything wrong with me. Why am I locked up? Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And, and we all knew what was happening. But for that particular man, I rang him several times that next day and continued on. And he's okay now. He's okay. But I say to him, I said, every now and again, I say, how are you feeling? He said, I'm better. He said, I'll never stand on the balcony again. He said, he said, I'm fine. I mean, I'm working. He said, I'm working and I'm doing well and I'm earning money. And he said, and I can see a new part of my life that's taken over and I'm motivated. He's got hope. Yeah. He's got hope.
So important.
Yeah. It is. And we just need to be aware as human beings that, we're not all in a good space. Not every one of us. We look good. We give that impression that we are fine. But do we really know what the other person's feeling?
Right.
That is so true. And it's so important to ask and to not just throw it off like, how you doing? Good, great, let's move on. But to really look someone in the eyes if you can and really say, really though, how are you doing? Are you okay? Or, and see, and maybe there's nothing you can do except listen, but listening is huge. Being heard, being seen is so important.
I think it's, being heard, being seen, and having somebody stand there and talk to you is like medication for some people. Some people refuse to take medication and they just want to reach out to someone, and that someone isn't always there. So when I go to different events and I sit next to somebody and they're all very claustrophobic and they're sitting there with their hands folded and their arms folded, and I look across and I think, I wonder what you're feeling, because that they're not feeling well. They're not feeling well in themselves. They're not adjusting to the environment, and something something is stopping them from speaking up. And I try and say, how you going, how you feeling, how's things, etc., and try and get in the talk, because they need somebody, whether it's me or anybody else. But the point of the matter is, we as human beings need to know that we can help. We can help. We can ask, we can speak, we can listen, we can help.
Absolutely.
You talked previously about your like women's advocacy and how you do mentorship programs and you do a lot of work for volunteers. So tell us a little bit more about that and about
I
some of the work that you do. Yeah.
Apart from running Women Speakers Association, which is a connect and collaborate for women in Australia, and I got involved with that 4 years ago. But in addition to that, for me, it's always being a little bit generous. I've been successful in my time, and I sort of feel that it's time for me to give back to the world,
Yes.
give back to
Mhm.
other women out there. And that's when I come across somebody that isn't right or something isn't right for them. I reach out and I help them, whether it's in their, more or less real estate people, because that's who I'm primarily mixed with. But
Mhm.
I help just about anybody and I help anybody get a job. I recently helped somebody, get back on their feet and find a job. And to me, that is more rewarding than giving me $100. That
Yes.
makes me feel
Yeah,
good. And that's
of
what I like
course.
to do. I like to reach out to people, individuals that are not doing well for whatever reason, and see if there's something that I can contribute.
Yeah. Well, that's just simply finding your purpose, right? Like,
Right.
we
Yeah,
go through these stages of our lives and our purpose changes, right? Whether we're teenagers or become parents or like all the things, or then we're retired. But I think what we're finding also, especially in our youth, which Marci and I speak about a lot, is finding purpose for our youth, right? I think they feel a little bit lost in all the nonsense and all the phone, the social media, and we actually work with a organization. I'll give them a shout out. It's called Hands for Hope. But what they do is they match or marry teens up with groups in the community, whether it's homeless or shelters or helping animals, whatever it is. But I think the common thread is that we're all human beings and we're all here purposefully. And I think not everyone understands that concept. And I think we've lost some of that.
we have. And wouldn't it be nice to be able to educate people, though, to be able to get that concept, to be
Yeah.
able to feel and reach out to people? I
Yeah.
remember when I was, look, when you're talking about dogs and things, I've got this passion for animals. And, I'd be moving people around and they'd have a dog or a cat and they couldn't take it. So I ended up with all these dogs and I ended up with all these cats. And I'm still into rescuing cats. I have two rescue cats. You know, I could have more if I was able to, but the whole point is I'm always about that. And I think people that have animals seem to be a little bit better in the way they
Yes.
deal with life in general. And we
Yeah.
have this new law that's just this new regulation that's come out in New South Wales, where I live in Australia. That means that people can have up to 4 pets. And they
Mhm.
don't decipher what pet that is. It could be a rabbit, a snake, or a dog. It does, they don't
Mhm.
decide. And so 4 pets, and I'm thinking that's really and generally going to help a lot of people coming
Yeah.
home to someone that is there for them,
Yes.
or being there
Yes.
for someone, and having that obligation to take the dog for a walk and getting
Yeah.
out of their house. It's got to be nurturing for a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And I feel quite good about it. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I feel sorry for the owners of these properties that they're renting. Um,
That
sometimes I
have
don't.
the snakes and rabbits and running around their apartments. Yes.
Yeah. Well, when people and I started in property management too, and my mom's real estate company, she started a property management company. So she got a broker's license, she started her own company, and she did property management. And one of the things that she always said was that, people who are taking care of their lives take care of their pets. So
Yeah.
having pets doesn't automatically mean that the home is going to be destroyed. But then the other piece of that is people can take care of their lives when they have the mental capability to do so, when they're nurtured, when they're fed, when they're safe. And so all of it relates, being able to afford a home, having a safe space where you can land. And then, I think of the man that you helped to save on the balcony. His home may have been fine until he couldn't leave it. And so things
Mm.
like this, like that was obviously a very strange time in the world, and we were all trying to do our best, but some of us were very fortunate in that we were quarantined in a home with a yard. We could go outside and still be it. And maybe we liked the people we were quarantined with, or we had lots of space. But some people were in a 1-bedroom apartment with no ability to go out, and that changes everything. So we're all walking our own path, and the things, whatever we can find to lift us, the thing that, and it's not the same for everyone, but I definitely think a dog or a cat, and I have one of each, can just bring so much joy to your life, so much meaning. And, but also being able to go outside, being able to put my feet in the ground, having people that I can talk to, that I can say, wow, I'm really struggling with this, and someone can just hear me. All of these are ways, just like you were saying, that you can show up for people, and that people need this. And if you're in a situation, and a lot of times it is men, where you're thinking, oh, I can't have feelings, I can't show weakness, I can't cry, I can't need anybody else. That is just not human. It's not sustainable. It's not normal. And it's okay to need, to feel, to talk, to have these conversations, to say, hey, I'm not okay. And to have a wonderful woman like Brigitte show up on the phone and help talk you off the balcony. And it doesn't make you less of a man. In fact, it makes you more of a human when you can talk about your stuff and just feel things and look at it and say, wow, I'm really struggling right now.
Isn't it amazing how women are able to open up a lot quicker and a lot easier than men? You talk to a man about his problems or about his situation or something that's going on in his life, and he shuts down, and they don't open up, and they won't open up.
Yeah.
It's so difficult, and I have this all the time with men that are not doing well in their workforce, and trying to get to the bottom of why they're not doing well. I mean, it's all a mindset, but trying to convince them it's a mindset, and you can change your mindset. You've just got to look at it in a different way. But
That's right.
they are so difficult and so closeted in their approach and their ideas. And
Yeah.
but it's not just me finding it difficult trying to get through. It's men trying to are finding it hard to reach other men as well.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know. I mean, we are so different when it comes to, the genders, that trying to reach people sometimes is extremely difficult. And it takes time, it takes perseverance. And and I'll come back to the point is that you've got to be a good listener. You really have to be a good listener to help someone.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
can sit there for 10 minutes and they talk, and you're trying to take mental notes as to what they're saying, what does it mean to them, and deciphering their language, or
Yeah.
they're trying to explain something to you in a funny sort of a way, and you've almost got to be a psychiatrist to sit there and decipher what's he talking about, where
Right.
did he go wrong,
What what is the book? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yes,
Yeah.
so true, so true.
That's pretty much putting the nail on it. Yes.
That's where it's important in those conversations to be able to ask questions, and like we always love Brene Brown's say more. This is something that
Yeah.
so when someone's talking and you're not quite, and you're like at that moment, you're like, what are they talking about? Say more about that, and let them talk, because people they censor themselves. They're afraid to say certain things. They're trying to make it sound a certain way. Like the more they can just talk and just really share, then you can really get to what's really going on here.
But I think the more people talk, the better they feel. It's does them wonders. It's like
Yeah.
medication, you talk to someone and they're telling you their story, and
Yeah.
then later on you get this message to say, thank you for listening to me. I feel so much better now.
Yeah.
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 So
Yes.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
so we
true.
just in general, we've got to be good listeners, haven't we?
We
Yes.
do,
We do.
and able to talk, and that's how we process the hard stuff. When we talk about it, something can be so frightening or upsetting or make you so mad, but as you talk through it with someone who's listening, you can process it, and yeah, by the next day you can be like, why was I so upset about that? Because you didn't just push it down, but you worked through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
As per usual on the Warrior Parent podcast, speaking of talking, I think we run out of time. But I think we've solved some of the world issues while we've been here for half an hour or so. What do you think, Brigitte?
Look, I think we have. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Marci and
Mm.
Debbie, for having me on your podcast today. I've had a great time. I loved it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brigitte. It was great to have you on.
Thank you so much. Hey, Warrior Moms. As we started this podcast, we had determined that part of what we were going to do is to create a community. So we have decided to take it to another level, and we have started our own Facebook community in addition to the Warrior Parent podcast, and it's called
From Chaos to Calm, a sanctuary for moms. Here's what it looks like. It's on Facebook right now. Please go and join it. And just to let you know, we're going to create our Blue Sky accounts right now. We're getting prepared as we watch this weird stuff go on in America. So we may be shifting the whole group to Blue Sky. Just be aware that we got you. We're going to start here. If this turns out to be not a safe place anymore on Facebook, then we will shift over. But what we're creating is a safe space where moms can show up and get information, get support, talk to each other about the things you're going through with your kids, the things you went through with your kids, maybe get some advice from moms, but also other experts. We're going to invite all of our guests and experts to join the group. I hope you will too. This is a place where you can show up and be seen and be heard and be safe. Mom's got you.
Nobody trusts anyone more than moms. So let's do this.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters.
Today's affirmation encourages you to look at things a different way. Something better is unfolding right now for the world. Let's say it aloud together. Something better is unfolding right now for the world. Something better is unfolding right now for the world. This is true.
Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Veeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DeMano.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.